I've wanted to make a video about why GTA San Andreas is my favorite game of all time, but because it means so much to me and there is so much ground to cover, the thought has always been daunting and I feel like I need at least a couple of months to do it justice. What I decided to do with this video is to start chipping away slowly at this massive idea in my head until the day when I'll finally make that grandiose San Andreas video. I talk about a lot of different things on this channel, so new subscribers come in at different points. Some come in for the comics and superheroes or the old school cartoons or the gaming videos, which I think about a lot when deciding how to approach these topics. I know I can't please everyone, obviously, but my thought is always to lean towards universal aspects of the different topics I discuss, hoping they'll appeal across the board to most people, and this video will be no different. It should be palatable for anyone who likes any form of media. Even if you came on board after my Dexter's Lab video, shout out to you, you'll probably find some value in this. At least I hope. If not, tell me what your favorite breakfast cereal is in the comments and we can chat about that instead. All you need to know is that the fictional great state of San Andreas is like my second home, and this video should answer why I've spent 19 years there, quickly coming up on 20. Also, I'm currently playing the defective edition with mods, which is a crime for some. So the fan in me would advise you to just play a port of the original PS2 version instead. For the purists watching, please don't dock points off my Grove Street cred for the visuals in this video. I'll start by kicking GTA 5's back in just a little. Forgive me if you're a fan, and I admit from the onset that this is a completely subjective take because I'm very sentimental with GTA games. Tell me instead why you like GTA 5 so much and we can chat about that. Like I've said before, I love a new perspective, but I went into GTA 5 with San Andreas expectations, which was my fault, I can admit that, and I was heavily let down. We weren't getting the entire state of San Andreas again, which I came to accept and make peace with, but the big issue I had was a common criticism of the game. The map lacked substance and the game world, for all its glitz and glam, felt very hollow. I can run around this entire GTA 5 map and I have no connection to any of these places. I thought this northern corner of the map looked really good and had so much promise, but nothing memorable happened there. I thought this section with water rapids could have had some interesting story potential, but nothing of consequence was done with it. The road by the coast could also have been a potential spot to have a house for any of the characters, but that turned out to be another wasted opportunity. I even went to the eastern side of the map looking for excitement, but it was as empty as all the other places I'd explored. The main game was the personification of wasted potential. Adding all that to the fact that Michael's wife was cheating on him and his daughter was doing everything a father would hate for his daughter to do, plus bringing strange men home, and Jimmy was so insufferable, and so many inappropriate things were happening in that house, which made it all really gross. Like, who wants to spend their spare leisure time role-playing as a failed husband and father in a broken home? Sound off in the comments if you're a cuck. Kidding.
But you know, you can play as the other characters if you hate Michael's life so much.
I can hear them say. But Franklin had very little personality or charisma, and his move from the hood to his new home on the hills was the least satisfying GTA move ever. He was basically a caretaker of Lester's house, which took away that feeling of upgrading your life and earning your new spot that GTA is very well known for. And Trevor was just... It was all just nasty. Also, something I mentioned in a previous video is that all the playable characters felt like strangers because, unlike all the previous GTA games, we didn't arrive at a new city at the same time as the playable characters. We found them already living their lives, so we had to force our way into the story and try to catch up with a very uninteresting argument between two people, and the third who had nothing interesting going on. Took away Lamar and Franklin was just a cardboard box that could talk. This is still the only GTA I have played through just once, and I'm not an online player, so GTA 5 was very quickly dead to me. People have argued this point with me before, but I'm firmly convinced that the goal of GTA 5 was always GTA Online. And the single player side was shorter because it was just an entryway to get people on the platform and then funnel them towards the shop card life. Again, apologies if you're a fan, and sorry I have put this much GTA 5 in a San Andreas video, but I had to get this out of my system. Also, I'm happy for everyone who found enjoyment in this sad excuse for a GTA game. I'm joking, relax. But not really. San Andreas, on the other hand, is the most wholesome story involving gangbangers that will ever exist. The main protagonist, CJ, was very straight edge, and it was made abundantly clear from the start that he did not do any substance abuse. Something that GTA 5 saw and said, "Hold my bong." But San Andreas is super family and community-centric, which is the perfect kind of game for a sappy, sentimental person like me. So many of my favorite scenes in San Andreas involved the community and family aspects, where CJ and all the people he had formed connections with would hang out and do random chilled-out activities together before something would happen that would trigger a mission. It made it feel like, as much as bad things happened in CJ's life, there were always moments of happiness to be found regardless. I'm an African, so we're very big on community. There was always a sense that CJ was doing things for something far greater than himself. But I want to zero in on the map criticism that I levied against GTA 5 because that was one of the biggest successes of this game. San Andreas is the most efficient open world game I have ever played, right next to Red Dead Redemption 1. It uses every single corner of San Andreas and makes it all really memorable. A friend of mine doesn't understand how or why I and everyone else still spends time there, but it's because Rockstar deliberately made us connect with every square inch of that state. You pick up a controller and drive around the map, and everywhere you pass will trigger a memory. Remember in your life after a breakup when your feelings were still raw and different roads, songs, and neighborhoods all triggered memories of your ex? That's GTA San Andreas. It holds all the memories plus the added boost of nostalgia from our teenage years. Some people are not partial to the errand-style missions in games, but I find them the most important introductory missions when visiting a new map. Think about your inclinations when you travel to a new place. You always want to know where to get food, buy new clothes, potentially get a haircut and a workout. All the simple life routine things. That was the San Andreas approach to getting you familiar to your new environment. And it wasn't just fluff either. All those things were essential to the overall game experience and missions. The way you get to know Grove Street and the neighboring areas of the hood, with the barber shop across the street from the pizza place, the bingo shop up the street from CJ's house where you could get gang colors, the gym across the corner where he could bulk up to gain respect. All these really created a feeling of familiarity to CJ's home and neighborhood before the story could even really start. The writing that prompted those missions was also so good and organic and believable that you felt like Grove Street was your neighborhood as well. And I just need to say, as I go through these things, I'll be restraining myself because I could easily dive off on any tangent about clothing options, for example, and how CJ was so customizable from his hair to his physique to his clothing, because every CJ you see from different players will be presented with a lot of variety. But I want to keep my focus almost strictly on the gaming world. My approach to GTA games has also always been to let the story guide me across the map. I like to let the narrative open up every area for me so that I can have a story-based connection to each place. I know some people love to go off the beaten path and see the whole world before it's unlocked. And I've even heard people cite the closed sections of the map as a criticism of the game, which I'll honestly never understand. But I like having things to look forward to, so I'm happy to let the story guide me around and open up the new sections organically. The early game takes you through every corner of the hoods on errands and criminal activity, to the city while helping out your fake friends, to a beach party where you hijack a van, and it does all this by strategically spacing out points of interest for the story. So when you pass by this area, you will always remember OG Loke, for example, and the ridiculous shenanigans you got up to with him. When you find yourself in this neighborhood, you remember robbing the house that night with Ryder. Such a wholesome moment. Just two friends teaming up to do a home invasion. And that extends far beyond the early stages in Los Santos. There are memories all over the place that were formed so organically, because the team making the game actually cared about creating a classic as opposed to a high-budget disposable piece of content. When the story takes us out of the hood for the first time to the middle of nowhere in one of my favorite, most suspenseful San Andreas moments, I literally have vivid memories of how I felt the first time I got there. I still never ever go back to Grove Street at that point. I could, because there's freedom to do anything and everything, and mission structure is very loose, unlike modern GTA games which want you to play the missions in a very choreographed fashion like a movie. But I like to stick within the roleplay and act like Los Santos is off limits to CJ because of how he left. A cool thing I discovered while CJ was broke in the countryside was that I could do trucking missions and make money to eventually buy a house out in the sticks, cause that's what I would do if I was stranded out in the middle of nowhere with no prospects. Also, in the original game, there was no map GPS. You only got a marker that you had to try and drive towards, but it did not guide you on the best roads to use to get there. I remember so many times getting lost in that countryside or driving off a cliff into a river while trying to take a shortcut, especially during that harvester mission. And you know what one of the best parts of the original GTA games was? Failure meant starting the whole thing over again. People hate that, but it was my favorite thing about the early GTA games. It was very frustrating, but in my opinion, it prolonged the games and made them more challenging and therefore more rewarding when you finished the missions. So I stayed for a really long time in that countryside, just meeting new people, trucking to buy a house, and trying to complete the main missions. Also, with the autosave feature in newer games, you breeze through mission sections very quickly, which is something I'm not overly fond of in the slightest. I like feeling like I've spent many weeks in the countryside trying to figure out CJ's life. But aside from my weird gaming tendencies, they really took advantage of that section of the map and ensured that we saw it all as an integral part of the story. I also play different radio stations depending on where I am on the map, so when I'm out in the countryside, I only ever play K-Rose or WCTR. I play SFUR in San Fiero, K-Dust in Los Venturas and the desert, and of course Bounce FM and Radio Los Santos in Los Santos. Shout out to the homie Julio G.
Only on Radio Los Santos.
And I could easily go off on a whole 10-minute tangent about how great the radio is in this game and the massive amount of lifting it does towards the overall storytelling, and also use that opportunity to kick GTA 5 some more, but I want to stay focused. Something I also really liked is how organically the characters got around the map. Officer Tenpenny could find CJ anywhere, and it felt like he was really spreading his corruption everywhere. The way the supporting characters moved around the map was another thing that Red Dead Redemption 1 also did very well. Every spot where we met characters we were familiar with became lasting memories. They ensured that every mission marker meant something and contributed to the player's overall appreciation of the map. The radio also helped immensely with making the game world feel very alive. It created the consistent illusion that while CJ was going through everything that he was experiencing, everyone else was also living their lives and either ascending like OG Loke and Big Smoke, or falling apart like Mad Dog. I still marvel at how strategic they were in guiding us around San Andreas and crafting the whole story around that adventure, while progressing other activities through the radio. I know I said I'd leave it alone, but GTA 5's radio reporting on the different events of the game was a pale imitation of San Andreas that further emphasized how inferior the overall game was in comparison. And with that, I'll stop making reference to GTA 5 now, I promise. Well, we'll see. But the entry to San Fiero after completing the countryside weed burning mission was also really epic. Like I said, I don't cheat, so landing at every location was completely new to me.
Man, I can't believe I ain't been here before.
And very early on, they make a point of taking you around San Fiero in a mission that orients you to the city. I loved how CJ, being so far away from home, was still able to create such a cool community around him in this new city because he was used to having the homies around him when he was in Grove Street. This was just a more diverse friend group in a more cosmopolitan section of San Andreas State. The city, like all the rest, also had its own climate and vibe, which was super refreshing. You really felt like you were far away from Grove Street. And I didn't even mention this before, but Cesar Villalpando is one of my favorite characters in the game. Meeting Caesar through a very confrontational moment initially, with a lot of racially charged hostility, developed into one of my favorite relationships in the game. One of my favorite things with him was how Caesar would get intel for CJ all the time, and it was always unprompted because he was just a homie looking out for his homie. The photo opportunity mission where CJ had to travel out to a country road to meet Caesar and then drive over to another spot in the sticks where an important meeting was going down just encapsulated what I loved most about this game. Their use of different locations on the map and the variety in their approach to missions was just immaculate. The only other game which even comes close to the map use and mission design of this game that I've played, again, was Red Dead Redemption 1. That's another one I need a couple of weeks to even attempt to talk about. The Witcher 3 might do this as well, but I'm yet to unwrap it from its seal because my friend told me I need at least a couple of months to even attempt to play that, and time is constantly at a premium for me. I'll report back when I eventually get to play it, but please let me know if my friend is a liar. My only complaint with map use in San Andreas would be this little section over here that I liked a lot, but there was no house that could be purchased here. I would have loved to buy a house in that section of the map for a proper holiday home away from Los Santos, but it wasn't meant to be. The awesome San Andreas modders need to do something about that. But aside from all the connections and callbacks to earlier moments from different locations during CJ's adventure, or the progression of CJ as a character, or all the friends he made along the way, or his return to Los Santos with his crew which brought everything full circle, I remember stumbling across a triathlon event while just roaming around the map and I lost my mind. I told my friend about it at the time and he said, "Yeah, you didn't know?" Like a condescending Then he added that there were flyers at the gyms that would tell you what day and time and location you could find the events, and that blew my mind even more. I had no idea. Okay, last GTA 5 criticism, but I might be alone on this one. I loved this older era of GTA games where certain activities had to be done at specific times. If you arrived too early, too bad. You had to find something to do until the time when the thing you wanted to do was available. That's another thing we've lost as of GTA 5, which will just fast forward the time for you when you get to the marker. That may be convenient, but it feels like a movie rather than a game, whereas the time-specific missions in older GTA titles felt like a living, breathing world with schedules that you had to be mindful of. Anyway, like I said, I was only focused on the use of the map in this video, but I am twitching because I have so many more things to say that are so granular and might sound silly, but I find every single aspect of this game to be absolute perfection in video game writing, design, and world building. They even bothered to make a 20-minute film called GTA San Andreas: The Introduction, which gave more context about the events that occurred before the game, while connecting them to the events of GTA 3 and Vice City, my absolute favorite gaming trilogy. You can tell when any creative work is super inspired, and San Andreas was rockstar firing on every cylinder, and then some. You feel the passion in every pixel. This is what can be achieved only before big business and corporate interests get in the way of art. Like I said in my last video, these companies need to remember what put them in the dominant financial position that they are currently in. When I eventually get to do that big San Andreas video when I have the time to prepare, I'll really get into why this was peak Grand Theft Auto. I mean, you can see how long this video has gone with all my restraint. GTA 4 is a lot of people's favorite game, and it pioneered so many amazing things, including my overall favorite GTA weapon play and physics. Not to mention a BAMF in Nico Bellic, but I will die on the hill that Rockstar peaked with San Andreas. To this day, I still cannot believe that this game was made. And even further than that, it was made in the early 2000s, when games media did not even believe that the PlayStation could handle such a monumental undertaking. And that's why people are still playing it and modding it to this day. The San Andreas modders, by the way, are the most passionate and wholesome Rockstar fan community that I have ever interacted with, and I feel so bad for people who never got to play this at the time of release and create all the memories that we love to revisit today. I also discovered that this game was huge in Russia for some reason, but any reason I can get to return to my favorite state is reason enough for me, so there will be more videos to come. If you never played it, what are your favorite gaming memories that blew your mind at the ability of what video games can achieve? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.
I'm gonna cry! Yeah, okay. Excuse me.